What up, YouTube? Good morning and welcome to Deek Jack's What the Papers Say. Today's paper is the, would you believe it, Scottish edition of the Times. More evidence, should you need any, that some people don't want you to know what's going on outside your own little fishbowl. Now, I could walk you through from the front page to the editorial, but I think given what the editorial says, I'll just get straight to the thumbnail. Protect the herd. If a coronavirus vaccine is developed, it must be compulsory for everybody. The Times editorial. Now, there's a bit of wiggling going on with my camera. I think that's because of this new mount I've got. I'll try not to bounce up and down too much. All right, never mind that. Protect the herd. It does what it says on the tin. The herd, the bovine masses, the corralled, owned, controlled property of somebody, the livestock, the herd. That's what it says. Protect the herd. And so this editorial piece, Good Morning Sleepy Shoegazer, relates to a story earlier in the paper about how 1/6 of the population of Great Britain have already said they won't be taking the vaccine. 1/6. Now 1/6, let's see, what is that? It's like 17%. Good afternoon. I blame. I see what you did there. Although here in Britain it's only 20 past 11. So yeah, about 17% of Britons at the moment are saying, I'm not having the virus. Now, I've only got a poor degree in natural science from the Open University, but it's my understanding that herd immunity is conferred not by compulsory and total vaccination of a herd, but by a smaller percentage having had it and having antibodies. And in relation to the coronavirus, I believe even the government's own advice about herd immunity is that it required 1/3 of the population of Britain to have been exposed to the virus to have antibodies to confer herd immunity. So, but now, surprise, surprise, now a coronavirus vaccine must be compulsory for everybody. Man, I have been saying this since the start. This is not news to me. This is confirmation. This is the drip, drip, drip of the policy. Guten Morgen, gobsmacker. This is the drip, drip feeding of the policy to compulsorily medicate us with confinement loaf. If you're familiar with Frank Zappa's very nice song. It's not even confinement loaf. What the fuck is it? Vaccines are small parts of the disease. I don't want the disease. I don't want the disease in a small part, in a great part. I don't want a little bit of it. I don't want any of it. But if I did get it, I would want to deal with it in my own way, with my own chemical soup. I'm not going to say things, morning proletariat wish. I'm not going to extol you to wake up or man the barriers or any pointless pish like that. I'm going to extol you to not have the vaccine. Don't have it. Tell your friends not to have it. Tell them that it's not killing enough people to make even the lockdown or the anti-social distancing necessary. Oh yeah, they want to ram it up your backside. I missed your name there. They sure do. I mean, the medical community love a medical procedure. It is the case, and you can check this out, that when they discovered how to remove appendix, suddenly vast numbers of people had to have their appendix removed in a huge big rush of, let's take people's appendix out. And the same is somewhat true of mesh in Scotland. There's lots of people, I believe, in Scotland and Britain suffering from mesh implants. Oh, we've discovered how to put mesh inside people. Let's do that. This craze for vaccinating against things which kill people who might die anyway. What are we keeping people alive for anyway, people? What, so they can buy comfy pants, open-toed sandals? What are we keeping people alive for? So they can go to the shops and fuck the planet some more? Fuck people. Yeah, as long as it doesn't swell up to the size of a balloon and rupture and burst you. Okay, let's do what the papers say anyway. As it's the Scottish edition, it is of course full of irrelevant pish and not world events. So the Met drops a probe into Alex Salmond. This is interesting because detectives in London were passed claims by Police Scotland during their investigation into the former First Minister. What, did he fondle England? Did he get England? Did he give England a few drinks late at night in Bute House and suggest that maybe they could have a closer relationship? What has Alex Salmond done to England to require the Met ever to investigate him? I don't know. If you need to beat a cough, honey takes the biscuit. Honey is more effective than standard over-the-counter medicines at combating coughs, sore throats, a study has said. I already knew that. I can tell you some other stuff about honey. Honey is by far the best thing to treat any burn, and the NHS knows it and uses it. The stuff they put on burns that isn't honey isn't as good for you or at it. Honey is an incredible medicine, food, substance, and there are not just honey, but the products of bees in generally. I highly recommend propolis, which is the nature's most potent antibacterial substance on earth. Yeah, honey, vinegar, and colloidal silver. I hear a lot about colloidal silver, but I think I've already got enough heavy metal in me. And although obviously certain other metals, calcium's a metal with which we couldn't live without. And so, although I'm not steeped in the lore of colloidal silver, I'm not going to dismiss it out of hand. I just find drinking a bottle of liquid silver at the moment a little bit unusual. Honey and the other products of bees, bee pollen and propolis. Propolis looks like a sort of brown chewing gum, but you can get it in tincture and other preparations. Highly recommend it for toothache, skin problems, outbreaks of any kind. Keep it clean, sex saunas warned. Edinburgh's brothels are back in business, so long as there's no kissing. We don't do much kissing in Scotland when we go to a brothel. We just pop in, drop our pants, and and straight to the happy ending. Really, a staff member confirmed the sauna was open but declined further comment. So did other premises. Have the client take a long shower on arrival. What? With you? Is that included in the price? Insist they use soap. Well, you do. You need a little lubrication sometimes. Thoroughly wash hands and face very well with soap and water. Keep as much distance as possible from each other. How is that going to be possible? Is this a kind of brothel where you just looky? I can looky on the internety. If I go to a brothel, I don't want to keep my distance. I really don't. Be sure to thoroughly wash all surfaces, especially high contact points. Door handles, bed frames, knobs, nipples, buttocks, stuff like that. So, if a brothel can open, a gym can open, surely. From behind with a bag on the head. New powers let councils milk drivers for millions. This is a story about how, at the moment, councils are not allowed to issue fines for moving traffic violations, only parking and other things. But under new laws in England, they're to be allowed to issue fines for stopping in a yellow box, ignoring no entry signs, stuff like that. And these laws could potentially help councils raise hundreds of millions from motorists. So, hands-free cars given the green light. Really? Hands-free. Hands-free driving planned on Britain's roads by next spring. What's hands-free driving for? Who does it benefit? What advantage, other than being able to get pished, which is still currently illegal? You're not allowed to be pished, drugged up, unconscious. Of what benefit is driving without your hands? Unless you could combine it with a sort of mobile. I should have two phones if I'm going to do this shit, eh? Yeah, hands-free driving. What's it for? Hey, do you know what? Wouldn't drive-by shootings be that much easier if you had a hands-free car, you know? You could really get the bead, you know? When your Tesla is just cruising past the 7-Eleven, yeah, get a real good bead on that sucker. Although it's usually handguns, I believe, in a drive-by, so you could double up on them. Yeah, motherfucker. Yeah, hands-free. Who is it for and why? People filmed for Snapchat as our girl drowned in a river. Well, that would be a compelling picture, wouldn't it? That'd be a compelling little TikTok. My heart goes out to them. Not because their daughter drowned, but because it was revealed to them what a bunch of cunts people are. Musician did not kill actor's daughter, rules appeals judge. This is a story about a musician and his girlfriend who went to a festival and took drugs. She had a very bad reaction to the drug and died. And he was accused of killing her by failing to get help quickly enough. And his conviction was overturned on appeal because the appeal court said it cannot be proven that if help had arrived sooner, she would have lived. Now, while I don't disagree with their legal judgment, I've been to a few festivals recently, not this year, but I was at some last year, and quite a lot of people were on drugs, and there were, in my view, not enough medical facilities specifically designed to deal with the bad effects of drugs. It's no good wishing that young people didn't take drugs, or even older people like myself, because they're gonna take drugs at your festival, and you ought to be prepared for that shit. And the idea that if this man had called an ambulance, which might have taken hours to reach him, should be spared conviction because he did that sooner rather than later, is a little absurd. Surely, given the backdrop of festivals and behaviour of people at festivals, it behooves the organisers to have rapid response, drug-specific medical treatment on site if we want our middle-class children to survive their developing years. Because that's what kids do, you know. They get to 17, 18, mum and dad let them go to a festival, and the first thing they do when they get there is they buy a fucking pellet off some dodgy geezer from Romania who looks like the bus conductor. Honestly, he's got a bum bag full of fucking ketamine, cocaine, MDMA. They can't even be bothered spelling out what the drugs are nowadays. It's just KCM. That's all it is. So if you're thinking of letting your children go to a festival, make sure that that festival has proper medical facilities, because you can't stop them taking drugs. Students in limbo after A-level row. This is class. Migrant attacked minutes after he landed on the beach. A migrant was attacked on a beach in Kent within a minute of arriving from France by dinghy. The young man was set upon by an assailant who watched him landing after making the channel crossing. Police said the victim, aged in his 20s, of Middle East appearance, was not injured, and they have begun a search for the attacker. We shall fight them on the beaches. We shall fight them on the landing grounds. We shall fight them as they step out of their dinghies. We shall batter them in the face as they crawl wet and sodden from the surf of Kent and Surrey. I don't think Churchill had that in mind when he gave that speech, but that is what's happening. More than 4,500 have arrived so far this year, 15 times the total. Yesterday, bad weather meant there were no reported arrivals of migrants on board boats from France. I'd like to see a little more imagination used by migrants. You know, where are the hang gliders? Where's the zip wire? How about they build a giant zip wire tower in France and they just zip wire into England? You know, use your imagination. UK faces wave of drugs if Taliban fighters are freed. This story is by Manveen Rana. Now, Manveen Rana is surely not familiar with what happened to the supply of drugs from Afghanistan after the Americans invaded it. The supply of drugs year after year from Afghanistan has gone up and up and up and up and up, principally heroin or opium, because once the Americans got there, for some reason, huge amounts of opium started making its way back to America and Europe. It's funny that, isn't it? And so the idea that, man, the Taliban, this is a complete distortion of reality, in fact. The Taliban crushed cruelly and meted out horrible punishments to people who grew opium in Afghanistan. The Taliban were dead against that decadent shit. And so the idea that if you let Taliban prisoners out, we'll be swamped with drugs is the reverse of what's true. We have been swamped by drugs because we locked the Taliban up. And if you let them out again and agree, some sort of, if the Taliban become part of the government in Afghanistan again, our supply of heroin will dry the fuck up. This is President Ghani of Afghanistan, who's just a corrupt lick-spittle proxy puppet for us. And as soon as we leave, he'll have his throat cut and be dangling from a tree, and the Taliban will be in charge in Afghanistan. Like that. It won't take a second. The idea somehow that the Taliban will hold to any negotiated truce or peacekeeping deal once we leave is wishful thinking at its best, or a lie at its worst. A sixth of Britons say they would not have vaccine. See opening story on how they wish to make it compulsory. Yeah, not fit for wiping your arse on no more. I agree. I need a supply of newspaper for my agricultural concern. Otherwise, I wouldn't buy a newspaper. I could just sit here on my mobile phone. I tell you what, a friend of mine keeps saying, don't know why you read that pish. I'll tell you why I read that pish, because I meet people all the time who've read this pish, been told this pish, seen this pish on television and elsewhere, and I like to know what they've been told. I do. I like to know what they've been told, and I like to know my enemy. And also, there are some stories like the bungee jumping cat or the turtle that looks like Donald Trump that I'm just not going to find on the internet. I don't really do the internet, I don't sit on the internet surfing around looking for funny things. So I know a newspaper can sometimes supply me with a smiley face. 1 in 6 people would refuse a vaccine, undermining efforts to eliminate the disease. Roland Cow, professor of veterinary epidemiology. This is a story from a fucking vet. Good morning, whoever that was. I missed your handle there. Public health agencies faced a challenge to convince young people to take a vaccine for a virus that predominantly affects the elderly. No kidding. Oh, compulsory vaccination has a long history of protest. Yeah, no kidding. This gets worse. I've said this, all right? I've said this repeatedly since the start of the coronavirus. This is what they're going to do. It is more about thinking whether we can restrict people going on public transport with ID cards or proof of immunity cards. That's what's coming. And it gives me no pleasure to say that I've been saying this for 6 months. That is exactly what's coming. The government dare not pass a law saying you must have the vaccine. However, see if you want to go into Pizza Hut or work at Amazon, or your job is with a large corporation that wants to take part in this proxy fascism, they will mandate and demand that you have your certificate. Not even Steve McQueen could escape what's coming. I agree, we're in the river. We're in the river, folks. We're all soaking in it, and we're being swept downstream. I can see the edge. I would like to swim towards the edge, but the fact is, the river is deep and wide, and I swear, we're all going downstream. We are going downstream with this river, whether you like it or not. Jake Ventura. I'm waving, not drowning. In fact, I'm going down the river, signalling to the powers that be. I'm not suggesting necessarily this is going to happen, but that might be an option to incentivize people. The argument could be that if you've not been vaccinated, your risk of transmitting the disease is higher going on public transport. That's what's coming. Proxy enforcement. I'm sorry, sir, you can't come in the mall. It's not the law, it's just our private corporation's policy. It's not the law, it's just a demand from us in your face to prevent you going about your normal everyday business. Germans told to wise up or face a travel ban. Masks compulsory in French offices. Prince Charles decides to quit organic farming in preparation for becoming king. Yeah, good luck with that. He's not actually, the farm won't stop making the organic produce which he sells in Waitrose. He's just not taking the lease out. Instead, he's to turn another 900 acres that he has into an organic sheep farm, because we're all crying out for organic lamb. Oh, RAF drones controlled by contractors. I mean, that's, an interesting story in and of itself, but let's read on. Private contractors have been drafted in by the Ministry of Defence in the United Kingdom to help crew its armed drones in the Middle East. Do you remember the Middle East before the coronavirus thing? Okay, here's the interesting bit. Britain has 9 Reaper drones based in Kuwait. What the fuck? What do we need 9 Reaper drones based in Kuwait for? Who the fuck are we killing in the Middle East? 9 Reaper drones. Now, I believe a Reaper drone, off the top of my head, I seem to remember it can carry up to 8 Hellfire missiles. So that's like, 71, isn't it? 8. If there's 9 times 8, yeah, 72. 72 Hellfire missiles. Let's say that only half of them or so are operational any one time. Call it 4 Reaper drones, 8 Hellfire missiles, 32 Hellfire missiles in the sky ready to kill some unnamed wedding party at any time. What do we need 9 Hellfire armed drones in the Middle East for? Anyone? I thought, I thought it was all over in the Middle East. We invaded Iraq and got rid of that awful person, Saddam Hussein, who we put there. Our friends Saudi Arabia and Israel are heavily armed with our weapons to protect themselves from whatever rag-headed, towel-headed goat herders with a rusty Kalashnikov. So what do we need 9 drones in Kuwait for? Tobias Elwood, Tory chairman of the Defence Committee, said the use of contractors cannot be the thin end of the wedge, outsourcing responsibility for weapons systems that are likely to define aerial combat in the near future. Indeed. So you won't need to worry or bury your children for killing people in the future. So it won't bother you who gets killed, because your children won't be involved in the killing. It'll all be done by robots. And that'll be so much nicer for the people who want to kill people, because they won't have to justify it or talk to you about it. And there'll be no witnesses. Seriously. We've got drones in Victoria. Auschchinia. Is that a pun on Australia, Aus-China, Auschwitz, China? Yeah, man, drones flying everywhere. A drone scanning you for your vaccine certificate. How about that in the future? Stop there. How about a drone delivering the vaccine to you with a needle dart in the back of the neck? It may sound fanciful, but things ain't weird enough for me yet. Want to save the Union? Put away the flag. This is a story by Kenny Farquharson. Kenny's the sort of twat who'll be running Scotland should it ever get independence. Kenny's a fat, double-chinned Scottish Tory cunt. I'm not saying he votes Tory or professes conservatism, but you can bet that he drives a Jag, lives in a detached country manor, and went to Fetties and or St Andrews, where he played rugby for Gala or Kelso. G'day. To the average left-leaning Scot, the resonance of the Union flag, is not good, and it's true. If the more Scots are confronted by rabid English nationalists waving the Union Jack, the more it irks them and causes them to consider nationalism. So here we are back at the editorial. Protect the herd. If a coronavirus vaccine is developed, Britain's bought enough coronavirus vaccine to give everyone in the country 5 doses. 5 doses. That's more than enough. What's the 65 million? So they bought 320. I believe they bought close to 400 million doses just for Britain. So saying if a vaccine is developed is a bit behind the curve, isn't it? We've already bought whatever hasn't been developed, planning to give it to people. Lukashenko threatens to jail opposition hotheads. Sanders prays for Biden seized on by Republicans. Oh yeah, the Democratic Convention in America is virtual. Joe Biden speaking to voters. He's not speaking to voters, he's sitting in front of 3 iPads. Gun deaths soar as Americans pull the trigger to settle arguments. More than 1,000 people have been shot in New York City, a rise of 84%, with murder up 29%. I often wonder in America when there's a rampaging lone gunman, because if I lived in America, I swear, folks, I would have guns. I would have guns in my home, my car, on my person, all the time, and they'd be loaded, and I'd be ready to use them. I would, because if I was at the scene of a shooting and the gunman was going mad near me, I'd want to be ready. And so I wonder, since you are allowed in America to carry, use, and own guns, how come it's always lone gunman kills 30 and not, mass shooting? By mass shooting, I mean loads of people, like a full-on war zone breaks out in Walmart. I just wonder if that wouldn't be more fun. Israel retaliates against fire balloons from Gaza. I mean, the people in Gaza are now so desperate, they're sending the equivalent of Chinese lanterns over Israel, which has caused Israel to blockade their fuel. The time will come. If they want war, they will get war. The attacks came as Egyptian officials tried to ease the situation, holding talks. Good luck with that. German dog owners will be obliged by law to allow their pets half an hour's exercise in the fresh air twice a day under changes to the country's animal welfare law. When they say allow their pets half an hour's exercise, I'm all for that. If you could just open the door and say to your dog, right, go out, you have to get your exercise, that would be fine. My son has a dog, and I can assure you that he has to be walked physically by a person. And so this seems, I don't know if Germans like the state intruding in their life, but this seems like micromanagement of your life that I could do without. Also, what if your dog takes you to court? I mean, what are we suggesting that dogs know how long half an hour is, or that their rights have been? What are your neighbours checking on you? Oh, he hasn't walked his dog. That was only 20 minutes he walked his dog. In a German accent. You are only having walked your dog for the 20 minutes today. Fucking hell, man. It's bad enough if they smell the dope you're smoking in the back garden. Oh, here's a little nugget. Israeli euphoria at the agreement establishing diplomatic relations with the United Arab Emirates was replaced with anger yesterday after it appeared that the Gulf state was to be allowed to buy US F-35 stealth fighter jets. Now we see the crossing of the T's and the dotting of the I's. The United Arab Emirates has oodles of money. It's an incredibly wealthy Arab oil state. And America would not sell them weapons as long as they were antipathic towards Israel. So by signing diplomatic relations with Israel, I guess they've opened the door to arms sales. Facebook allowed anti-Muslim rants. Facebook is accused of refusing to remove posts by politicians which denounce Muslims as traitors and call for mosques to be burned. I'm going to go back because there's a story here about the hate speech laws coming in Scotland, which is very close to my heart, and so I shall try and find it because it's going to be very sinister, these hate speech laws. So I must find it. While I'm looking for it, I'll just bring you up to speed. The Scottish Government is planning some hate speech laws which forbid you to stir up hatred or to possess inflammatory material. Now, unfortunately, some people have pointed out that that could include owning the Bible. Heaven forbid. And that the test of what inflammatory material or stirring up hate is could be so low as to make almost anybody who says anything on the internet, for instance, liable to prosecution. It's in here somewhere. And so people are urging the Scottish Government to reconsider this law before it comes into effect, because if they do, it will cause a tsunami of prosecutions of people simply for speaking their mind, myself included. Now, I think most religions, here we go, Yousaf must wake up to the risks of his hate crime bill. No one doubts Mr. Yousaf's good intentions. I do. Fuck Muslims. Fuck the Jews. Fuck Christians. Fuck you if you've got a bizarre religious belief. I definitely doubt his good intentions. Fuck Muslims. And fuck Mr. Yousaf and his good intentions. He appears to either misunderstood or ignore the implications of his new offences of stirring up hatred. Now, I don't hate people I haven't met, but I do hate beliefs that people have. And I might say, in a rather inexact sentence, man, I fucking hate Muslims, because what they believe is odious, stupid, retarded, fuckwit nonsense. And I hate Christians and Jews for the same reason, not as people, but for being infected with their bizarre, retarded, moronic beliefs. And I believe I should be quite free to say Muslims are retarded moron fuckwits and I hate the shit they believe. Or just say I fucking hate Muslims. You know, just to shorten it, save us all a lot of time. So J.K. Rowling could have been prosecuted for her views about trans people on Twitter. And but Mr. Yousaf's saying there will be no prosecution if it's not done in a threatening or abusive way that is intended or likely to stir up hatred. But putting the word likely into law removes the burden of proof or lowers the bar on the burden of proof very significantly. So likely, that sounds like somebody's opinion. I thought it was quite likely. Did you think it was quite likely? The problem is that likely removes the need to establish intent. Yeah, there you go. Another issue is the difference between conviction, prosecution, and investigation. Publishers would receive serial complaints about their controversial commentators, such as the Daily Mail, the Sunday Mail, blah blah blah. Mr. Yousaf insists his legislation will not harm freedom of expression. I wish I believed him. I can assure you Mr. Yousaf's legislation will absolutely harm freedom of expression. That it's designed to harm freedom of expression, and that doing away with freedom of expression is exactly what Mr. Yousaf has got in mind, because he doesn't want to hear people say that people who believe that Islamic shite are retarded, moron, idiot fucks. It's a nasty, evil thing they believe. I use the word evil advisedly as they use it. So, regular viewers will know that I have my own religion, and we believe that Muslims, Christians, and Jews are all evil, retarded, idiot fucks. And it is our wish to destroy their religion and remove all of its adherents from this planet on behalf of good sense, our alien friends, and to make sure that this planet is safe in the hands of the astronomers and not a bunch of retarded mumbo-jumbo twats. I can assure you Mr. Yousaf has definitely got freedom of expression in his sights with this law, and I can also assure you that that man at the mall and in Starbucks and on the bus saying, "Have you got your vaccine certificate?" He's coming soon to reality near you. And there ain't much we can do about it, folks. There ain't much we can do about it. Unless, of course, it were your religious belief or desire not to have vaccinations. In which case, you should join the astronomers. Simply declare yourself to be an astronomer. I will do some work on the astronomers' website soon to give support and background colour to this belief system. And until then, thanks for tuning in to What the Papers Say. I'm going busking because it's not raining. I hope you all have a great day. I'm going to. Bye.